Thank you, Mr. Ziad, for that informative presentation. And now to the panel discussion. We have quite the selection of panelists for this discussion. The first panelist, perhaps the most relevant person to this discussion, is the Minister of Fisheries, Marine Resources and Agriculture, Dr. Hussain Rasheed Hassan. Minister Dr. Hussain is responsible for the development of and sustainable management of fisheries, marine resources, and agriculture of the Maldives. Dr. Hussain completed his master's in the field of fisheries economics before going on to attain a doctorate of philosophy in international production and trade in principal market tunas from the University of Portsmouth. He was a member of the Parliament in 2004. Our next panelist is one of the pioneers of the insurance industry of Maldives and is the co-owner and chairman of Divya Insurance Company Private Limited. He is also a serial entrepreneur and has conceptualized and spearheaded new businesses in different business sectors. He is none other than the MD of ANSYS Fisheries, Mr. Abdul Wahid. The flagship company of the group is ANSYS Fisheries Private Limited, which is the market leader in the processing and export of yellowfin tuna products in Maldives. The company also owns local brand NZ and has invested in real estate and tourism sector as well. Along with being the MD, Mr. Abdul Wahid is also co-founder of ANSYS Group since 1996. And last but not least, from Maldives Financing and Leasing Company, we have their MD and CEO, Ms. Ibthishama Ahmed Saeed, who holds over 20 years of banking and finance service experience. In addition to this, she has an impressive executive career servicing across vast industries including banking, aviation, hospitality, and healthcare. She has also served as board director of the Bank of Maldives and has served as chairperson of Maldives Tourism Development Corporation. The moderator for this panel discussion is a fishing enthusiast, truly obsessed with fishing. He's my former colleague, Mr. Shaun Shareef, Chief Internal Auditor of MIFCO, the largest company in the Maldivian fishing industry. Mr. Shaun is member of ACCA and fellow member and licensed auditor at CA Maldives. He is committed to the highest professional standards for performing audits with proven background in internal and external audit, risk assessments, and control assessment with compliance to relevant frameworks. So ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, I invite all the panelists on stage for the discussion.
Thank you very much for the introduction. And I would like to thank CA Maldives for giving us this opportunity to discuss a very, very important topic and very, very relevant topic for the time being. The topic is, you have heard from Mr. Ziad, that we are going to discuss is sustainability and future of the fisheries sector of the Maldives. And I think this is a very relevant topic to be discussed in this forum. The fishing sector of the Maldives has been second largest economic drive of the country, as you have just seen from the presentation. And it is also a primary source of income for many Maldivians. Now, before we start the discussion, I would like to share some data which I have taken from MMA. And according to the data published by MMA, at the end of 2021, the fish exported total has reached 76,890 metric tons, which is $139 million in value, or 2.1 billion. And this year, by the end of August, we have exported 49,680 metric tons of fish, which is equivalent to 96 million US dollars. And I think we can agree that indeed fishing industry is in fact a great contributor to the Maldivian economy, but there are many challenges, many areas that we need to reform and ensure the sustainability to the upcoming generation. So let me begin with the fundamental question of the main objective of the government as a policy maker to the intervention in the fishing industry. Now, I would like to ask my first question to the Minister. Minister, according to the recent audit report that was published by the Auditor General, for the past 5 years, the government has supported MIFCO, the largest exporter in the Maldives, with more than 700 million rupiah. As an official of the government or policy maker, in your view, what is the rationale or objective behind the government intervention into the industry, Minister?
Thank you very much. First of all, I think I should thank the Maldives Accountants Forum, especially the Auditor General, for inviting me. And it's not every day that we get an opportunity to talk to auditors and accountants. Anyway, I'm going to take this opportunity to explain the rationale for government to support MIFCO or other entities in the fishery sector. I think people know that from antiquity, the Maldives have been a polyline fishing industry. And our people survived hundreds of years because of the income and nutrients and food that we get from the ocean, especially the tuna and reef fishes. Up until 1970s, our major product export was actually moldy fish, dried, sun-dried, boiled tuna from the Maldives to Sri Lanka. And I think it was in 1972, the Bandaranaike government at the time decided that they can no longer buy our fish because they don't have dollars to buy it. So we understood that. So President Nasir at the time decided that it's time that we look alternative, solutions. So to cut a long story short, we actually hired Hokomaru and Marbeni from Hong Kong and Japan, I guess, to actually buy raw fish from Maldives. And it was bought in the name of the government, and we have cashiers, government cashiers on board the vessels, and fish was bought. And then the same fish was transferred to the company at a profit. So we know, until then, we were making profits. Then started the current, the industry where we started not only exporting frozen fish, but also value-adding, locally establishing a cannery in Felivaru, and then also going into modern fisheries sector where we mechanize our fishing boats, started doing that in '74. So now all our fishing boats are mechanized, and we have canneries, and our product is very well known globally. But the sad thing is we're not making profit. We're not making profit essentially because by now our fishery is, the objective of fishery is not only to make profit. It is also a social objective. to employment is very important for us. As Ziad said, 17,000 people are directly employed in fisheries. I find more comfortable to stand in here. So 17,000 people directly employed in fisheries, 700 vessels are there. And for us, it's very important to keep these people employed. The alternative would be providing employment for them. So right now, we're making losses in fish exports. If we consider MIFCO, on average, we are making 200 to close to $250 a ton. We're making loss. But we have to continue this. You may ask why we're doing it. But you don't ask why we're doing, we fund in the education sector. You don't actually question why we fund in 100% health sector. So right now, the way it is, fisheries sector is actually a social sector, I'm afraid. But this has happened because we, in the process of developing the fisheries, our cost of production has become higher than the market price at which we can sell fish. As you know, that will happen. So that is very sad. But I think you really have to understand it is important for the government and for the nation to keep this employment in our community as well. 17,000 people directly employed in fisheries, plus their families. You multiply by 3 or 5, that's a lot of people. So if we do not have the industry, there will be an outcry. So that's not going to be acceptable. And this is the reason why when we have good fishing, like right now, when we can't buy the fish that is being caught by the fishermen, then there is an outcry. When people catch more fish than what we can process or buy, then that is a big problem. So government are required to invest in, even with making negative profit, we are required to invest in the sector, buying boats or freezing capacity or other capacity for storage. So this is the status we are in. And you might want to know why this has happened, but I think in the later stage, there is a question on that. But I think I'm asked to give a rationale why we're doing this. So I think this explains why we're doing it. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. I think from what you have spoken, we understood that fishing sector has quite social objectives when we look at from government point of view. I would like to redirect this question to Mr. Wahid. Mr. Wahid, what are the challenges to the private sector because of the government intervention into the sector? Do you think that social objectives of the government have impact on overall growth of the industry?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. First of all, for giving this opportunity to be by the Accountants Forum. By the Accountants Forum, and especially I would like to thank Auditor General Niazi for giving this opportunity. I think it's a very important question, especially for the accountants, for the finance people, how to, because we are in a situation where the economic viability of the sector is in question, and it's a very good. I think the fisheries sector is a very good question for the finance community to really come up with a solution how the sector can be made sustainable. I think the fundamental issue now, as Minister highlighted, and Minister by profession is also a fisheries economist, so I think he would know really the challenges that they are there. But I feel what is coming from private industry, I think our efforts to promote the sector are really hampered by the government subsidy that is being given to the fishermen. I think, as Minister has said, the government also has considers this as a social sector, but, when the method of doing in supporting the social sector should not jeopardize the health of the industry at large. But I believe that currently how it is being done to support the government company MIFCO and use that company to support the fishermen is a way that is really that is not healthy to the development of the sector, because when that is being done, only the fishermen that are going to MIFCO, to selling to MIFCO, they are only the beneficiaries of it. And it means that, when the price of the fish is purchased and exported is not matching, as Minister has said, there's almost $200 to $250 loss per ton, which accounts for about 4 rupiah per kilo loss when you buy the fish. So when that scenario is there, and government is supporting with the finance for the company to do that, I think the private sector is not given this support, so it is very difficult for the private sector, even with the efficiency that they can bring to bridge that gap. So I think it is very important if we are to find, because now today we can think of the problems, but we should think of the solution as well. So I think the solution would be that the government, if they want to run a social scheme, they should run it as a social scheme, that the beneficiary of that scheme should be the fishermen, whether they are going to sell to MIFCO or to any private company, they should be the direct beneficiaries of that. So any funding given to support the fishermen should go directly to the fishermen. So currently it is going to the corporate, to the company, so the actual benefit is not being given to the fishermen at large of the country. So this is one of the main reasons, I think, that that the fisheries industry currently it is not in a growth stage, because when there's structural problem in the sector, this is a very big issue for the industry, because as a national producer, as a country which is producing and exporting fish, we have to compete with many other countries like Mauritius or Vietnam or Indonesia. So we have to be in a national competitive level. So I don't think the national competitive level will come only through the government, subsidizing, and giving away, holding the price up for the fishermen. It is a much wider industry, and we should, address all the areas of the industry in a way that the private sector should also have a good environment to operate. Otherwise, the national competitiveness will be lost. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wahid. I think that was an insightful opinion from private sector side. Since we are talking about the challenges and in this sector, I think there are quite a few things that even Mr. Ziad has spoken of. There are some financial aspects that we need to think, and some quality management aspects as well. And of course, we have covered stock sustainability as well. Now, I'm not a technical person on the topic, but I think the red color graph means something, and it looks dangerous to us as well, right? Now, based on the report published by the fisheries sector, Fisheries Ministry back in 2019, followed by the Fishermen's Forum, I have seen that it says Indian Ocean Tuna Commission (IOTC) has put forward a resolution to maintain fisheries activities at both sustainable and profitable level. I would like to ask this question to Minister. Again, he is the expert on this topic. What is your opinion on stock sustainability of the Maldives, and what are the measures that the government has taken to ensure stock sustainability and to limit overfishing?
can I have my graph, please? Can you put the graph on, please? Okay, anyway, I hope they can show the graph. This is going to be difficult to explain without actually having some graphs to show what really has happened. Is it on? No. Are we working on it? Okay. Basically, you should appreciate that fisheries or fisheries resources are natural stocks. They're not like plastics that you input into making dolls and you have more dolls, right? So the fish in any area, in any ocean, is actually a natural stock, and it is finite. So what really happened is when you start harvesting fish with fishing effort, see in our case it's number of trips that we make, you actually, your catch levels goes up, as the graph shows. Initially it's low level of fishing with, your catches increase as fishing effort increases. Then it reaches to moderate level of fishing, then it goes to a maximum sustainable yield. That actually means that is the maximum amount that you can take from any natural stock. If you harvest more than that, then the stock will decline, and that will called eventually overfishing. So this is the basic for fisheries. And I guess for any biological growth curve, it follows a bell-shaped curve. It is a natural way of fishes and other living things, exist. So going over to the other graph, how I change it. Okay, to cut it short, let's look at this graph first. So let's look at the yield is the amount of fish that you're going to catch, okay? And that is your y-axis, and in x-axis we have the actually amount of fishing effort that goes into catching that fish. As you can see, the virgin biomass at effort level 0 is much higher. Can you see it? The broken line, the black line. So when you start increasing the fishing effort, the virgin biomass start declining. And it declines as fishing effort increases. And if you look at the three phases where you have the biomass declining, but the catch levels increases. Although the biomass generally declines, that's the stock declines, but there is a point until you reach maximum sustainable yield, your catches will increase. So say if you prune the tree, there'll be more growing on that tree, right? So there's more space. When you catch fish, there's less competition among fishes, and there's more food available, and that stock increase, the catches increase, but biomass is all going down. But then in the yellow, you see in the growth overfishing starts there. So there is no growth in stock. So you are fishing the growth, you cut in the growth. So there is no growth. Finally, you reach a point where your stock is going to deplete. This is the red zone. So this is exactly what's happening. So this is the reason why we need fisheries managers. This is the reason why we need fisheries scientists and fisheries biologists to look at the stock. We have science. We can assess how many fish, what's the volume of fish in a given stock. Yes, we play with the numbers. So we can estimate the biomass, we can estimate maximum sustainable yield as well. So we are scientists as well. So I think we have something in common with you because we play with figures. So let's go up again, this graph. This is the more or less an economic, show you the revenue, cost, and fishing effort, all that in one graph. So, not to complicate that, at carrying capacity K to 0, what really happened is your fishing effort is increasing and your stock is, going to decline later when your catches increase beyond maximum sustainable yield. When you increase your fishing effort more than the level of maximum sustainable yield, you have a situation called open access equilibrium. That means you are actually not making profit. Your costs are same as the amount of revenue in general you're getting from that fishery. So nobody is making profit. So naturally, without government subsidies, fishing will stop at that level. And stock will remain at that level. So, but you can see from this graph, the profit is, or the distance between the cost line and revenue line is actually higher at a point we called maximum rent or maximum economic yield. So it's much better to harvest at that level rather than at maximum sustainable yield. That means your stock is healthy, there is no risk of overfishing, and you have the assurance your stocks is sustainably harvested. What really happens is usually in a fishery, which is driven by social considerations and other export considerations, we tend to export, catch more. And sometimes we go beyond MSY. In the Indian Ocean Tuna Commission manages the stocks in the Indian Ocean. Actually, Maldives unilaterally cannot manage tuna stocks in the Indian Ocean. The UN Convention Law of the Sea requires us to cooperate with the regional stakeholders like other fishing nations, coastal states, and foreign fishing nations. So we have an organization called Indian Ocean Tuna Commission. They regularly sit and they assess the level of harvesting. And Ziad shows those graphs, those quadrants. Right now, yellowfin is in red, and other like skipjack, which is our most important species, which is reaching more or less sustainable level, maximum sustainable level. So when finally we reach MSY, countries are forced to negotiate on quotas. So when we do that, the Maldives will be given a quota. Okay? Say we take in 120,000 tons a year, probably we will not be able to take more than that from skipjack. Okay? Or yellowfin will be a quota as well. So we are coming to a point where we can no longer will be able to expand our fishing fleet. Because if you have more and more vessels entering into the sector, then there will be not enough quota for them to make a profit. Especially our fishing fleet is considered inefficient in terms of pollen line. Because pollen line is inefficient not because of ecological or environmental considerations, it is inefficient compared to the purseaners. Purseaners probably catch a ton of tuna for about $700 or a bit more. But for us to export, we're making, our cost price is actually $1,800 plus. So unless we get that amount from Bangkok or where we export, we will be making losses. For the same reason I explained before, we need to maintain this fleet. So the question is, how are we going to deal with this situation? One is, we have a natural stock. We have going to have a quota. We can't increase more than that. That is going to be a constraint. The other thing is, we must spend more money on value addition. Right now, I believe the Thai importers benefit more from our fisheries than us. We actually don't, in economic terms, financial terms, we're not making profit. But we have a social value from it. Don't quote me that, say that this fishery is not valuable to us. It is valuable to us because to keep the jobs, it's very important for us. But to make economic profit, we need to actually add value to it. We are actually raw material exporting country, and we are a price taker. We are not large enough to dictate the prices because the purseaners in the Indian Ocean are dumping actually cheap fish to the same market. So who is going to buy our fish at a higher price when they have raw material at cheaper prices? So it's an economic problem. It's a social problem, not a social problem. So we have to be competitive to be in the market, be in the industry. So we have to invest more in processing. I agree with my friend Wahid. We cannot continue in this condition. We cannot continuously pay more and more to the fishermen when we actually making losses. We have to turn this around. I believe Maldives can turn this around. We have the know-how. We know how to do this. I think it's going to be in our benefit to actually invest more and more in value addition and make more profit from our exports. Not just raw fish exporting country, but value-added tuna products exporting country. We also have a difficulty right now to compete with other exporters because in 2011, we became a developing country, actually middle income level developing country. And before that, we get concessions, zero duty status in the European Union, which is our main market. Right now, we pay 22%, 24%, 20% on our exports, depending on which products. That means compared to Seychelles, Mauritius and others, Sri Lanka, our costs are going to be much higher. Right now, the government is negotiating with the European Union and also the UK, one of our major markets. But we have to play with, we have to be treated the same as other countries according to the WTO rulebook. Okay? We have constraints, but we are working on to overcome that constraints. This is the reason why the government is actually in the process of becoming a member of the African, Caribbean, Pacific States Organization.
I think,
So,
Mr. Let
yeah,
me,
I'm going to stop that, I know, but you asked very difficult question. I have to give a detailed answer. So if I don't answer it, they will say the minister was not been able to give an adequate answer. Okay, anyway, this is the reason why we're doing it. This is not a small problem. This is a national problem. But together, as educated people, with the industry, with our stakeholders, I think we can solve it. We got to invest more in the processing sector. Ladies and gentlemen, the auditors and financiers have to support the investment in this sector. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister. Now, I was going to relate this question to a finance industry. Actually, I would like to ask this question to Ms. Ibthishama. According to the licensed fishing vessel list published by the Minister of Fisheries this month, there are 585 licensed fishing vessels. And we hear that there are more than 40 vessels about to enter into the market in few months' time, probably. So from what just Mr. have described, in future, probably, there is going to be a limitation to our fishings, and which will ultimately lead to difficulty in investment recovery as well. So from the lender's perspective, do you think that there is an impact on investment recovery or difficulty in lending due to the stock sustainability measures that are going to be in place? And how do you think we can manage this risk?
Thank you. Thank you for inviting finance to a fishery forum. But let me answer to that question. The short answer is, as Minister has indicated, as Wahid has indicated, as Mr. Ziad has indicated, there is overcapacity. So financing for vessels, of course, is a concern. in terms of return on the loans that you give out. But having said that, we also as financiers focus a lot on sustainability. So we are all in support of sustainable any business. And MFLC itself has also launched green product. And perhaps maybe the investment lies not in vessel fleet investments, but also lies in investments for cannery development, investments for storage. The capacity is less, I understand, from Ziad's presentation. So this is where financiers can come in as a lending party. We all lend money in return for profits, capital, and there is no component in our current financing, conventional financing requirements that indicates non-returnable financing or impact financing. But Maldives can tap into impactful financing where the financiers do not actually focus so much so on the returns, but they do focus on other benefits such as environmental or social benefits. And this is a very well-designed, workable mechanism where the will of the political government is also required when there is overfishing. We've all been talking about sustainable fisheries and maximum sustainable yields. And we all know that when the fish catch reaches the maximum sustainable yield, it becomes biologically unsustainable for the fish mass. So this is a huge concern. And the impact financiers would work towards maintaining the biological mass and taking the brunt of the financing losses. Additionally, the insurance sector can also come in to guarantee the loans in a time where the borrower is unable to meet payments. Insurance can perhaps step in to meet that low catch or controlled harvesting of the fish during that period. So in terms of feasibility, in terms of maximum sustainable yield affecting financing, it all depends on what we are financing for.
Thank you, Ms. Ibthishama. From the yesterday's one of the sessions, I saw that there was a interest in ratio, which was presented by Mr. Halim. Basically, what he was discussing was that the ratio to banks financing to the different sectors of the economy. And I was quite surprised to see for the fishing sector, it was, I think if my memory is good, I think it was below 1%. And majority of the portion was taken by hospitality industry or tourism sector. And do you think that we need to change this pattern in future?
As a financer, I would say that when we look at feasibility of projects, we always look for the returns, and we would be ethical in extending finance. We would not extend finance for what you cannot pay. So if that 1% is reflective of vessel financing, perhaps maybe, because there is overcapacity of vessels. But in terms of financing for other value-added products, Mr. Wahid would agree with me. We have been financing for processing and other means into the industry. Maybe perhaps this does not take into account these financings.
Would you like to add anything to it?
Yes, thank you, Ibthi. I just say MFLC is one of our financiers for NCC as well. So I think regarding investment, I think banks or finance companies, they are worried, will be concerned about the viability of the investments. And I think the viability of the investments are really in question, has been in question for some time, and the situation is, I think, worsening right now. I think for example, just to cite example of NCS, we have been trying to finance from Maldivian banks to make a cannery investment for some time, but we couldn't we weren't able to do it. Ultimately, we had reached out to overseas bank, to the German Development Bank, and we have borrowed and we have invested $25 million investment in making fisheries cannery. This financing was not available locally because the banks in Maldives, because of the, especially because of the problem of MIFCO, the fisheries is taken as a bad investment, so nobody is willing to finance it. And I would like to touch on what the minister has said before. I mean, always we have this discussion going back and forth that why we are selling at a loss in the overseas market. I think if the structure of the industry is good, fundamental structure is good, we would not have to sell at a loss overseas. The problem now that we are facing is that the government is holding the price of the fish at a certain level, and so because of that, the private processors, it's not viable for them to increase the capacity, for them, because when we increase the capacity, we make more losses. So we have to be in a very lean and a minimal level to operate it. So because of that, all the vessels, they go to MIFCO. Most of them, they go to MIFCO, and then when their storage is full, they have to immediately export the fish in order to take in more stocks again. So whoever is ready to buy at that time, they have to sell the fish. They don't have the time to really value add or do different processing with it. So because of that, the Maldivian tuna in the overseas market is also being at a very lower value, even though we have so many good environmental, social, story behind it. So I think the way that we can really solve the question of a very sustainable, in industry, in fisheries, is that, the government should, treat this as not only as a social aspect, but as an economic industry as well, in its full sense, so that we can be competitive with other countries, other producing countries as well. Just to provide a price to the fishermen is just part of the story. And I think doing that, really the competitiveness of the industry is going down day by day. We have NCIS for our part. Is the company in Maldives with the most diversified product range. We are in yellowfin tuna, we are in skipjack tuna, and we have different markets more than any other company in Maldives. We have export markets, export customers as well. So we are able to get these prices, good prices in the market. But when there's a lot of stock going from Maldives on a cheap, at a low price to the international market in Thailand, these customers also prefer to buy from Thailand. They don't prefer to buy from directly from NCIS or from Maldives. So this is a very big structural problem that we have. So this can be corrected only if the kind of situation that we have can be corrected now. I would like to equate this with, for example, Minister has said that this is a social sector. But for example, if we are doing a social sector, like we can say, for example, we are running like the Hassan scheme. But that scheme is available for all the health facilities. It is not just that only it is given to the government facility. Because if only the government facility is doing that, it will be overburdened and they cannot cater to the full market. I think in fisheries industry, it's the same thing that is happening, that the private sector is reducing their capacity because of the government, government holding the price so high. So this is actually impacting very badly to the industry. Thank you.
Before I give a chance to the minister, let me just quickly touch upon the quality management aspect of this industry. I think this is very relevant because we have seen a report published by Auditor General as well as the statistics we have seen. And I would like to ask Mr. Wahid that what challenges do we have currently in the industry um, to maintain quality from the point of the catch? Because we have been building enough ice plants, and maybe we need some other approaches to tackle these challenges. What do you think?
Yes, I think the quality aspect has been steadily improving, I would say, because as you rightly mentioned, that there is now enough ice available for the fishermen to preserve the fish in cold temperatures. So it is very good improvements are there. But having said that, we still need to improve, how the fishermen are preserving it, because currently sometimes in the time of very high catch, they want to run a race to the factory to offload the fish rather than maintain the temperature or quality of the fish. So I think, as Minister has rightly mentioned, there should be an optimal level of catch and price that has to be achieved. Now it is just a standard price, and then whoever is coming first to the factory with a big load of fish, they get the most money. So all these economic, attributes of the industry should come in rather than holding it in a certain structure that is not very benefiting to the development of quality and markets and good products. So we should really open the market and open our mind to to the maximum that we can go on this. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. I think it's important to hear the opinion of Minister as well.
Yes. I'm in a very difficult situation here. What I say will be caught by the newspaper, and what I didn't say will be not heard by anybody. So, okay, let me say this. I think it is wrong to say that Maldives fisheries industry has not been developed. It's been developed from a very small, tiny fishery in terms of volume to today's 120,000 tons of landing. It is developed. If you look at the number of vessels in the industry, those days maybe the numbers of vessels may be higher. But if you look at the effective fishing effort, the horsepower of the fleet, this has increased as well. So it's not always the numbers, but effective numbers. The killing capacity is important. So we have very effective fishing vessels now. What has happened is, over the years, we have not put the right investment at the right time. See, in the 90s, early 2000, we invested in Kudu facility, and that was appropriate at the time. 240 tons per day is a good number, but not anymore, because now our fishermen are bringing 1,000 tons a day. So, of course, it's not going to be sufficient. But this shows actually the fishing sector has increased. And with permission, I would actually add something with my friend Wahid said. See, Wahid admitted that his company has become one of the pioneers and, excellent fisheries company in the country. The reason they have existed and become profitable is because it's profitable, right? I mean, they would not have grown their operation and become a huge investor if it is not profitable. Right now, we have a special case. I think Wahid will agree. I mean, it was profitable before. Now, the fuel price has gone up. The COVID has hit hard on our fishery, okay? And with changes in policy, the tourism sector has taken a lot of people from our fisheries to tourism as well, with minimum pay and all that. So it is transition phase, but I agree, we need to help the industry. During COVID, the government actually gave money on loan to the industry to buy fish because they will not be able to buy the fish and freeze it and export at the price they were doing it. So we did. Even right now, there is a need for us to help hold hands with the industry, okay? But as you know that, I mean, this is not a time that we have, a lot of money. So it's a difficult phase that we are going through. But I promise you that, the government of Maldives wants to make the fisheries industry an economically viable, profitable industry. We are committed to that. And this is the reason we are making the right investment at this point of time. We're adding 100 tons per day cannery in Felivaru. With extra, cold storage, 2,000 tons cold storage there, and other ice facilities as well there. We are adding 4,000 tons cannery capacity in Kudu, in Huadu Atoll, and we are also now in the process of expanding the frozen fish capacity, which is right now only 240 with the vessels. It can reach to 500 sometimes. But the fishermen are catching more fish and bringing every day during this period of good fishing. So we need to increase the capacity. Right now, the government is investing in this sector to increase freezing capacity as well. Hopefully, we will double the freezing capacity. Despite making negative profit, the government is ought to do this. You know why? Because a private investment company can actually stop buying fish without any obligation. Okay? Nobody is going to blame them. But the day that we stop buying fish, the government will be blamed for this. So we must ensure fishermen's catch is bought and processed and change with right investment, change that to a profitable sector. This is what this government of Ibrahim Muhammad Soli is trying to do. Inshallah, we will achieve this. But I know right now we are in a really bad situation, but that means we learn from the bad situation, we do the right investment, and we turn around this sector to make economic profit. It is a profitable industry socially. It is very desirable to have this. But right now, we must think about, we cannot continuously pump in money to MIFCO and others always. That is not what this government is about. That's not what this government intends to do. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Minister. Before concluding the session, I think it's important to know the opportunities available from the financial institutions or financial sector, because I think the time has changed now. A lot of youngsters are coming into this sector. So if Ms. Ibthishama can say a few words on this, what are the opportunities currently available?
To bring youngsters into the industry, I think the government can actually focus on recreational fishing, regulating recreational fishing. If you can bring the big fishing industry into the Maldives as well, catch and release, this is something that seriously at policy level you can look at. And also youngsters can go into resource-based level also and invest in commercial level also.
Do you think the financial market, there are products available for funding for these youngsters for this?
Certainly, if it is feasible, why not?
Thank you.
We are already actually laying fish aggregating devices closer to the islands in hoping that this is going to support the guest industry as well, the guest houses as well. So we're not just laying fish aggregating devices for the fishermen only. So those people who are interested in recreational fishing, they can go. So there is a lot of things we are doing at the same time. The change in environment is something that we have to consider as well. Thank you.
Thank you. I think the screen, from the screen, as you can see, that our time allocated is nearly over, and I would like to thank the panelists for your valuable contribution. And I hope that we were able to engage in insightful discussion. Thank you all. You all have a very good afternoon.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you all panelists. I would like to request all panelists to stay on stage for a few minutes. We'd like to reward you a token of appreciation. Honorable Minister Dr. Hussain Rasheed Hassan. Mr. Abdul Wahid. Ms. Ibthishama, Mr. Shaun, I would also like to request Mr. Adam Ziad to come up to stage to receive a token of appreciation. Thank you all panelists. Thank you, AG.